to invite you to grab your coffee, your tea, your water, your hot chocolate. If you need an espresso, you can go down to Holiday quick. Oh yeah, the one that's over by Target? Yeah. All right, we're going to invite you to grab your coffee. Make sure you spread out in the sanctuary. It's good social distancing. It's good. If you also had one section, I could just tune my body to that section, but now I got to do the full 360 pan. I was doing the new member class today, and we're talking about some of the distinctives of the Covenant Church. And one of the distinctives is the Covenant Church is known as a very relational group of people, and trying to move from a service coffee time to back to congregation meeting just proves we are a connectional people, which is good. We welcome those of you that are joining us online as well. Miss Rachel over here is going to be our moderator. She's our de facto moderator for all congregational meetings that happen to be online. We have good representation today. We have Violet over here, just over age 1, so that's an early representation. Her vote matters, okay? Her vote matters in this. Also want to just kind of acknowledge some of the logistics, that there is a microphone that is over here to my right, to your left. When I get done with our presentation, there'll be times for questions and conversation, and we'll invite you to come up to the mic. And again, we do that in part because right now we only have wired mics, but secondly because we also want to see people. And so that camera up there is going to capture those wonderful people that come down there. What I'm going to attempt to do in this presentation is fly at the right altitude. Okay, I don't want to go too high and just kind of gloss over details. I don't want to fly too low and belabor particular points that don't need to be belabored. The reality is that the presentation that I'm going to give is really built off of this document, and we've had this document in electronic and paper form for almost 2 months now. So we hope that at this point people are at least somewhat familiar with these projects. So again, instead of 30,000 feet, I'm going to fly at about 17 to 20,000 feet. If I need to, I'll bump up or bump down based on Carol's smile. If she stops smiling, I'll go up or down. But she's smiling right now, so I think I'm good. I want to begin by talking about a why and the process that we have been in. Okay. So in March of 2020, this building completely shut down. Because we all went online. And I challenged our staff, and it didn't take a lot of challenging, but I challenged our staff to say, okay, let's take advantage of this opportunity that we are in to look and assess not only programming, but also the way that our facilities helps us in the process of doing ministry. And it was over that time that we made, I'm going to use the word cosmetic, relatively cosmetic improvements to the building. Things like painting, things like upgrading our children's ministry spaces, kind of decluttering and kind of bringing that up, modernizing that space. We took the stained glass, replaced that with clear paint, just trying to make this space brighter. You'll see that in the Welcome Center, the walls are painted white, relatively cosmetic things. The largest investment that we made during the pandemic was on the technology piece because we were being forced into a new market, if you will, in terms of live streaming. But what we did during that time was we kind of did like a 5 to 7 year kind of facility upgrade plan. And what we realized is that we could do some of these smaller items, more cosmetic items. We could do that relatively easily, kind of on our own initiative, using the funds that are available, and we try to do our best to keep the congregation up to speed on that. But we were running into projects that we knew were just larger items that needed to be researched, but also talked about more. So we have really been in this process now for about a year where we identified some much larger projects that, again, comprise this document. And we spent, starting in last spring, we started bringing in various groups of people, professional companies to come in and evaluate, help us kind of look at our building from different perspectives. We brought various groups of the congregation in to be part of those conversations. And we started to develop kind of the rudimentary forms of the plan. Then this past summer, we were doing focus groups during the summer, and we raised these topics because we wanted to get feedback. We wanted to hear. And it was as much feedback from color palettes to the companies that we were talking to. I remember someone suggested, you got to talk to this company. And so we did. We responded, and we consulted with that company. We were actually ready to present this plan in November when we were talking about budget. We were ready to go. The stewardship team had met. They had talked about kind of our financial capacity, where they felt comfortable in terms of a campaign. Our leadership team was part of those conversations, and they were wrestling with not only the financial side, but also these projects. We were all ready to go, but we were missing one piece, and it was the piece that at that moment we did not have a functional properties team with a chair, with a person in that lead position. And so I asked our leadership team to say, let's actually pause now, and let's divert energy and resources to fill that position, because I don't want to move forward to the congregation. I didn't feel like I could come forward to the congregation with a plan and not have gone through the team that really should be the one to make sure that they're kind of looking at all of these details, because this was, for the most part, a staff initiative at that point. And so by God's grace, we were able to have conversation and an agreement with Misha Henry to take over properties. And she came on board in late November, early December. And so for those last now 2 months, December, January, properties, the facility team has been looking at this plan and giving it its approval for us to move forward. And then we were going to bring this forward to you at the annual meeting, but then Omicron was at its peak, and we said, well, we think it's important to have an in-person conversation. I mean, again, we have a moderator, but again, we wanted to make sure that we're not trying to come across as we were trying to fast-track this. And we wanted to make sure the congregation was part of this conversation. So I wanted to talk about process and where we are at there. At the end of the day, the things that we notice about our facility, I just want to say a couple things here. What we are proposing today is not to suggest that this building has not been cared for in the past. And that's something the leadership team has been really clear about as well. So we want to acknowledge the work of those who have cared well for this building on a shoestring budget. We haven't had these kind of campaigns before, and there's been great work done and great sacrifice done to make sure this building continues to function well. But there are things that we've identified that align with not only just the modernization of a building that is aging, but also in alignment with our mission and our values that we thought we need to take a more significant step. And so we believe that these projects that are listed in this document that we have for you to discern with we believe that these are projects that are going to help us from a facility perspective, enable us to move forward with for future ministry. As we continue to dream and think about what is ministry, what is Christ calling us to be as a church, we believe that these improvements will help us put our building in a place to foster those ministry initiatives. I'm going to highlight these projects in relatively short order, and then when I'm done, I'll be quiet and I'll invite conversation and questions. The first is the sanctuary lighting, which is relevant because that's where we're sitting right now. The reality is that when it comes to sanctuary lighting, that this room is lit towards the orientation of the sanctuary before we made the change. So if you look up right now, you can see that the lights that are on these beams are all pointed this direction down because the orientation of the sanctuary was towards this direction. Well, now that orientation has shifted. And the way that these lights are positioned is that when they are on, we typically in a summer don't have them on because we have the spots now. And the other reason why we don't have them on is because when you look up, they're just not fun to look at. They're hard on the eyes. And so we have consulted three companies to give us a more modern, professional-looking option with pendants. So these bulbs that are up here that are looking down are going to be removed, and what you see up on the screen and in the document are hanging pendants. The other factor in this congregational lighting improvement plan was that right now it's an on-off situation. You turn lights on, turn lights off. There's no dimmability to it. And we wanted to, that was a key value for us as we continue to use this space in a lot of different ways. Now, these spots are dimmable, but the rest of the lights in this room are not dimmable. The other element of this room that you'll notice is that there are fluorescent tube lights that are in these troughs. And while they do offer light into the sanctuary, what they also do is they stop, a lot of light gets stopped at the beams, and they also highlight our air conditioner units. And I'm not saying that they're ugly, but I'm not necessarily saying that they do a lot for the aesthetic of the space. So in this improvement, not only are we going to bring pendant lights in that will increase the overall lighting and the effectiveness of the lighting in the sanctuary, we also want to maintain the beauty of the wood. And so we have another company that we've been working with, and we've worked with over many years in terms of the spots and TVs, those kind of things, install a projection light that will replace the troughs. So instead of the light coming up that beam and hitting that rafter there, it's going to be cross-illuminated. So we're going to eliminate this issue of the air conditioning being highlighted and the light hitting that beam. It's going to be crossed over so that the beauty of the wood ceiling is brought out. So it's an aesthetic as well as a pragmatic effect in the light in this space. And then we are going to take and replace the lights that are under here, under the little rafter deal thing, and just modernize those. And actually, that's some of the work that we're going to do ourselves. So dimmability, replacing these eyesores with something that looks more professional, more modern, affecting light, dimmability, and also bringing the beauty of the wood out. And so that's reflected in here. Okay, flip the page with me. We're moved to the next major section, which is flooring. Okay, where this started, the project of flooring started, is that if you walk by the offices and if you step on the wrong tile, what you'll hear is crick, 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 crick. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, one of those tiles snapped right off. So I'm suspicious that this was an issue over on the children's ministry wing, which is why on that side of the building, the tile area is covered in carpet. We would like to do that for that entire section and carpet it and just cover over all of those tiles. You'll look at the map here. You'll notice that on the right-hand side of the map, under staff offices, there's a red box there. That's Kathy's office. So Kathy, how long have you been here? 27? 26 years. She's never had new carpet in that office. She's been there 26 years, and that's the same carpet she had 26 years ago. We think it's time for her to get some new carpet, okay? We also are in the children's ministry space. There are also cracked tiles in the children's ministry space. And so it'll be a combination of carpet and also a flooring, a vinyl flooring to cover that space. And so we don't have to deal with cracked tiles anymore. Coming into this space, this carpet has served us tremendously well. But if you look down, or not too closely, but you'll notice that there are quite a few stains. We've had this carpet cleaned numerous times, and we just think that the carpet in this space has reached its lifespan. And so we'd like to replace the carpet that comes down the rampway in the Welcome Center, gets a ton of traffic, and then this space in here. And again, moving towards the carpet tile so that if one carpet space is damaged, we can replace those without having to do the whole deal. So that is the carpeting. Flipping the page over, stage upgrade. So one of the things you'll notice up here on the stage is we have these movable pieces, which at a time was helpful in terms of needing a different configuration on the stage. But what we've noticed is that it's been really helpful in COVID is to have as much space here elevated above. And we are noticing that these are safety hazards to have these like this, and they're not the most aesthetically appeasing. So and this is a relatively small upgrade, but we're actually going to make this a permanent We like to recarpet the whole space and not have these mobile units and increase as much of this upper room space up here on stage. And again, pick a carpet then that will match what is going to be in the sanctuary. And again, we're going to do a majority of this labor ourselves, so the $1,000 here reflects basically material. Flipping the page, playground. I'm moving through all this, and then if you need to come back and ask a question, we'll tackle those. The playground is the place where, again, I think our values as a church, as a multi-generational church, really comes into play. That right now, we don't have a functional playground. This summer, that main play set just got to a point where it was no longer usable. And this has been an ongoing issue for us. Even a year ago, we took off a part of the playground set because it was no longer stable, and parents were like, I'm a little nervous having my kid up there. And so we took the whole thing down. We have a couple of the metal elements left. And so what we did is we have been working with two companies. One is like the really high-end, like you'd get at a public park. And then this is kind of the next layer down, which is what we're advocating for, that is still very durable. It doesn't need a lot of maintenance, but it's better than what you would get if you went to Walmart, okay? I'm not saying anything bad about Walmart, but I'm just trying to put us in the project, kind of where we are. The other issue, too, is that sand is not code when it comes to safe ground cover. And so we need to replace that. And so Rachel and Kathy and Maria and Misha have all been working with a local company here. And $13,000, we can get a really nice, durable, really fun play set, and also then fill that with mulch. And I think that'll be a really good piece for us. Again, the reality is that when young families are coming, they're asking the question, they're looking at the building and saying, are you set? Do you care about kids? And we want, based on our children's ministry space, the classroom space, and our property, we want to communicate, yes, we care about families with kids here at Hope as part of our multi-generational focus. So that's the playground. Flip the page over. Last section here is the technology. We did a lot of this already in terms of we did initial upgrade and technology for live streaming, but we've learned a lot in 2 years. And there are things that we purchased, like this camera here, which has served us well, but we are literally maxing this camera out based on exposure and lighting and all that kind of stuff. We are maxing this camera out. This camera up here in the bird's nest, that is a professional DSLR camera that you would use as a professional photographer. It wasn't designed to be a long-term camera. So we're looking to replace this camera in the main spot. So this camera then can get bumped up to the bird's nest, and that can be diversified and used in other ways, not just as a camera. So that's one project. We've also had numerous requests for hearing assistance. And so we've done research there, and we have a system we can use to help those who have hearing issues. And then finally, in this, I made the comment before, we don't have wireless mics here. We do physically, but we can't use them because the frequency was bought out, and so they're illegal for us to use. So we have to invest in new wireless mics that are on a different frequency that is available for us to use. So that's a main reason why we can't just take a mic around to the room, because right now they're illegal to use. So that is the $6,000 that is put towards technology upgrades. Couple closing comments. I don't know if it was communicated in the opening letter, I believe, but we've actually already received, so it's a $100,000 campaign, and we've actually already received 41,000 of that 100,000, which is significant. And each of their three giving units that comprise that, and they all have very, very different stories. But there might be a question out there that says, well, does that mean that, are you asking for forgiveness and not for permission? You know, have we already been trying to prime the pump and to get funds before you even bring to the congregation? And what I want to say to get ahead of that question is, we did not approach either three parties that these three parties, on their own volition, came to us. One was a family with kids who did an ice cream fundraiser in their cul-de-sac this summer. And they came and they said, we'd like to contribute some of the proceeds of that fundraiser. And is there a project? And it just so happened that we were destroying the playground site at that time because it wasn't usable anymore. And they wanted to put their resources, their part of the fundraiser, to a new playground site. I think that's a cool story. The second was a stock option, and then the third was a family unit that just really felt like they wanted to contribute towards the improvement of these areas. They were particularly passionate about the playground set as well. So that just gives you a little bit of background in terms of where we currently are. So we've got about 60,000 to go to fulfill this campaign. So that's about the 17,000 foot level. I'll pause now, and if leadership team or stewardship, if I've missed anything, please let me know. But we'll invite people to come forward if you have questions about any of these elements in this campaign.
Use the playground? Are there liability issues? If we have an event here where we're doing outreach, can children go out and play on it, or do we have to monitor that? Or if the neighborhood kids, like they come over and play basketball, can they go on the playground?
Yes. We want to be a ministry that is accessible. And so it is our heart, which is why we went with not the highest end, but we went with the most durable, more durable playground set than what we currently have, because we do want it to be used and accessible to people, our neighborhood, and to those that are coming for ministry events. So that is our goal. We'd like it to be a gift and a use for those that we have connection to.
Maybe to answer her question, we do have liability insurance as a church. I think that was your question. Yeah. And we do have that broad liability.
Thank you. That's what I was wondering. If a child comes for an event and he goes out and plays, are we? Yeah.
We're covered.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn and Brian.
Ken Johnson.
Problem with the sanctuary carpeting, it certainly has some value to it. Has there been any thought given to the Dream Center or Place of Hope to come in and say, yes, we could use a certain amount of square footage rather than this, all this off to be disposed of in some other way?
So Ken, your question is about can this carpet be gifted? And it is not something that we've thought about, but it's clearly something that we could and should think about. So if it is of value to a ministry, I think we would want to make that accessible. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's not something that we've been thinking about.
This is coming from online, from the Wiginius family. They're saying, we'd love to see an outdoor community space rather than a play system that serves the variety of our neighborhood, families, students, and church socials.
I actually predicted that we might get a question in this general vein. So I'm going to actually try to dovetail this with the second question that I think could also happen, and that is if we're already at 41 and we only have 60 to go, what's going to happen if we raise more than what we actually need? And again, that's connected also to the question that is being asked by this family, and that is, well, aren't there other worthy projects that we could do? And the answer is yes. This is the complexity of working through this together, is that people have values and desires to see certain things. And the reality is that when we built this campaign at the $100,000 mark, we were cutting out a lot of projects that we wish we could do, but we can't do with $100,000. So there's a honey-do list that goes well beyond 100,000 of projects that need to be done. And so if we receive funds that excess the 100,000, let me just be really transparent with you. There's plenty of projects that can be moved towards. I also want to be clear that one of the things that we've done with this campaign is with $100,000, this is a test for us to see as a congregation, can we do this? And my hope is that through the faithfulness of the Lord and the sacrifice of this congregation, that in a year from now, we're going to look back and say, wow, look at how God responded, look what God did, look at where God is moving in us, and the kind of projects that are being raised in this are worthy things for us to consider in the next iteration. But right now, we have a defunct playground space that does not send a good message, I think, to families with kids. And that is a demographic we want to win with. And so that's why this made this iteration. That does not mean that we can't look at a community space in the near future. Ed Isaacson.
Most of my life, get closer, very, very impressed how careful you are and how hard you work with the money we give. I think the efficiency of this church, and I've worked on some things here, I haven't done much, but the stuff I have, very, very impressed how you care about that, and the money we're providing to do that will be used wisely, and I'm assured of that. That's a really, really great thing you do.
Thanks, Ed. So I think what Maria's saying, Maria Booth is saying, is that she at work may talk with some doctors, some people, if they want to contribute. Sure, I wouldn't turn financial support down. I think you might have been saying too. We're at a point where we want to get something that is new and started its life cycle versus recycling someone else's. So that's where it may be a little bit more shy, but man, if someone wants to financially support, we could become friends.
Pastor, I was just wondering, after doing a couple tapings for the choir, some of us have bad knees.
Yeah.
You ever thought about putting a railing on the permanent stage?
A railing. We do recognize that there are issues in terms of walking up the steps. A railing has not made it, but that's something we definitely can look into.
Second thing is, if there's lots of money left over, we could use public restrooms that are accessible on the main floor.
Yep.
And then the third thing is, has there been a plan on how we're going to raise the $60,000? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. So again, man, the list of projects includes, bathrooms. This is a unique building. It's not easy to traverse, for sure. A bathroom would be a significant investment. So, I look forward to seeing what kind of possibilities could be. It has been something we've looked at. In terms of the actual raising, so I should have mentioned this, there is a team of people, call them the Capital Campaign Dream Team, and so they've met twice now, since the leadership team has kind of approved us to where we are. And so that is what they're working on, is talking about marketing. And so we have some really fun ideas, some ways to continue to keep the congregation up to speed on where we are, to celebrate certain mile markers, and keep it in front of people. And you'll see one of those iterations today that comes with the vote. Good questions. Could a sergeant at arms, I think that's what they call them, could you bring to me both the commitment card and the ballot, just so that I can have a physical? So a couple things I would like to say about this next step. is that in a moment you're going to receive 2 pieces of paper. One is just the ballot itself, which I'll speak to in a moment. The other is a commitment card. And depending on where you are generationally, commitment cards, pledge cards may be something that's very familiar to you, or it may not be. It may not be something that is as familiar. This is an opportunity for those of you that find value in this to discern about where God might be, assuming that this is a yes vote, where God might be calling you to contribute and be a part of this. So this is, I also want to acknowledge that this piece of paper here is for you and the Lord, and it is not for public consumption. So what you fill out, if you fill one of these out, is not going to be made available. It's not going to be printed anywhere. It is going to be handled by the same people that handle our finances and the confidentiality of our finances every week. So I don't see these. Leadership team doesn't see these. It's just those that work with our finances. Let me say one thing about this ballot that is being passed out. So the leadership team 2 months ago asked the question, well, do we need a vote? Do we need the congregation to vote on it? Is this a votable thing? And I didn't know the answer to that. I went to our superintendent, and our superintendent said, well, technically you don't have to have a congregational vote. But our super said, you know what, anything you can do to promote ownership and buy-in from the congregation is valuable. So a vote is a good idea. Then the next layer of question is, well, wait a minute. Well, what if I'm not a member? So I can't vote then. But we don't want to send the message that you're not involved in this process. And so we're doing this a little differently. Let me just explain this. Regardless if you are a member or not, we're inviting you to vote today, online, in person. And that's why the top end says, are you a member of Hope Covenant? We need you to honestly answer yes or no. And then the second question is, regardless of how you answer, the first one is, what is your vote on this campaign? Now, here's where things get a little messy. That in the event that this is a contested vote, which I hope it's not, but if it is, then only the member votes will actually decide the success or failure of this motion. So that's kind of how we're looking for as much support from everyone, but if it is contested, that's how we are navigating that when it comes to voting. So you've received a ballot and a commitment card. If this is something that you are ready to fill out today, great, you can put it in the offering box. If you need a week, great, come back, put it in the offering box. If you need a month, great, come back and put it in the offering box. Question?
This is a question coming from online, from the Wiginius family, on who's on the fundraising team.
The dream team of the capital campaign includes our church chair, which is Julie Toole. It is our stewardship chair, which is Jim Thomas. It is Rachel Lassen, Misha Henry, representing facilities, and Gary Noble, who was an outgoing chair and serves as a liaison with the facilities, and Jim Thomas. So it embodies stewardship, properties, leadership team, and staff. Any questions about voting or the pledge commitment card? Okay. They're coming. I have 3 in my hand. If you pick the right one, I don't know, maybe there's like a prize. And then, Rachel, you're communicating to our online congregation just about the ballot and the commitment card that is available online as well.
I have a question about the timing. So if we don't turn this in for...
Can you ask it on mic? Thank you. We're just getting requests.
I have a question about the timing. So if we don't turn this in for a month, like, don't you want to know sooner?
Sorry. I was not clear.
Oh, it's
I
not
was
the
referring to
ballot.
the commitment card.
Okay.
The ballot, we'd like you to...
I'm probably the one unclear.
No, the commitment card is what we're inviting you if you need more time. Ballot, don't take any more time. Sorry, I wasn't clear. Okay. I feel like the jury is being sequestered now. When it comes to timeline, so we have companies. So depending on how the vote goes, we have companies that we are working with and are waiting to kind of get the green light. And so we will, if this is votes in favor, we will go ahead and contact those companies so we can get on their schedule. Because of labor and of material and the delays out there, we'd like to have the playground set in before summer hits so that we actually can use it. And there's also delay too on some of the lighting stuff as well. So that's what's going to happen, is to get on our schedule with these companies. Yeah, so on the pledge card too, there's also a section that if you'd like to help with any of these projects, that's another way for you to contribute, is to click yes, and there'll be a follow-up there with that as well. Thank you, Jim, for reminding me of that. Carol.
I'm still smiling.
Good.
I just have a question. What's the vision for what seems like kind of an unused space in the vestibule out there? I mean, we don't use those mailboxes anymore, I don't think.
Yep.
So, is there a plan?
So that was actually where I was hoping to put a bathroom. I mean, that was in our dream. I mean, in the original dream, could we do that? I don't know how feasible that is. Some people still use the mailboxes, some people don't. So the quick answer is I don't think we have a clear, compelling vision for that space right now, but it's something that needs to be looked at. But yeah, we don't. Outside of, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a restroom right there? You always wonder when the jury comes back this quick, is that a good sign or a bad sign?
It's 100% in favor of the campaign from both members and non-members.
Awesome. Great. So we'll make those.
Announce that on mic,
Go for it.
just so they can.
Oh, are you asking me?
Well, I am just adding up the online, and they actually match with what Jan said.
Okay.
Thankfully.
All right. So 100% online and in person. So that is great. We'll go ahead and make those calls tomorrow. I just invite you that if, again, this pledge card is a way for you to kind of wrestle with how you are going to be a part of this, then I encourage you to do that and to make use of that. I'll close in a word of prayer, and then I'll close our time today as well. Heavenly gracious Father, we thank you for the opportunity to have conversation where listening's done, where people are asking really good questions that don't have all clear answers in terms of exactly how we'll use this building in the future. Thank you for giving us what we need right now to look at this next phase of what you've called us to do and the way that you've invited us to leverage this building for ministry. We are just grateful for the way you provide and the way you've worked, and we anticipate and lean into that moving forward. We thank you for this amazing group of people who are committed to the mission you've placed on our heart to be hope for the life of the world. I pray this in your name. Amen. Have a blessed Sunday afternoon, and we will see you soon.